Time slips away. COVID 2020, untitled album. And then there was Self-Control, which I wrote, composed, and recorded in this apartment, followed by Hope, which was published on my birthday, I believe, in 2021, which started the tetralogy. The tetralogy was pretty much all COVID themed. I started doing sessions in the studio during the COVID pandemic. I started improvising more on the guitar especially. And that created a new style. Moving into 2022 with The Way Out is In, which features a fairly lengthy guitar improvisation on my Ibanez acoustic, to which I added lyrics later and improvised vocal melody. It also included Forget the Past, which was my attempt to play my own song, One Touch, on the acoustic, and it turned into a long kind of rant about the past and forgetting the past and healing the past. And 22 onward became more experimental, and I did 4 symphonies, or was it 6 symphonies for the end of the world? It was 4 albums, but 6 long pieces, to which I later added 3 more. So the 5th release in the series was Transition, Life and Death. That death is a transition between life and the next phase of whatever that is. And then, in addition to these experiments and I was playing the acoustic more, and then I sort of composed some or rearranged some older things. Moving into 2023, that was my year of trilogies, you could say. And I did, the first was for before I turned 50 years old, the first trilogy that I did that year, Triptych. And that was 02623, the year 226, my birthday, February 26th, 2023 marked 50 years. And it ended up also, as I say, or said, being a trilogy. The second part was a double album of older things. I found some recordings of my collaborator from Fukuoka, Sonny Yasuda. I found some of the original files he had sent me back during the COVID times when we were collaborating via computer, me in Tokyo, him in Fukuoka. And I really played around and experimented with them and made long, dark ambient, noisy compositions, mostly instrumental, some vocals, some effects, some new things. I took a piece from Untitled and stretched it and changed it. And What is the Body, Part 1 and 2, were the bookends for that. And I did the Human Trilogy, which is about what it means to be human. And that's because of all the AI hype at the time. And I say hype now, and of course all of that stuff is coming to fruition. We're on the cusp of something terrifying, as Bowie would have said or did say in 1999 about the internet. That's where we're standing now with AI and with global warming and with so many other things. We're actually in a much deeper hole than we were in 1999. Anyway, so I did the Human Trilogy, To Be Human and Humachinations, and Beyond the Body. That was another trilogy. And then I revived This Dark Shroud in 2023, and I did a trilogy for that. That was Vanity, which was the first new track I had created with heavy beats, which became the sort of beginnings of what I felt was the new This Dark Shroud, and I decided to revive it as a project. And So there was Vanity, and then I did 9, which was reviving older electronic pieces and rearranging them and putting new vocals and doing new things with them, including Black Nail, The Dials in the Bathroom, and The Fleshy Air. I did Broken Glass with beats, and then I would do a version without beats for the album to follow it, and etc. And it had one long sort of instrumental piece, which was actually based on something from To Be Human, but in a different version. With I added beats to it. The original version was no beats. And then I think there was one more trilogy that year, wasn't there? Anyway, I did the third part was The Signs Were There, which not until last year, 24, would I do a new version of The Signs Were There, and that went on the Tower, which I'll talk about after. And then The Signs Were There was, it had spoken word bits, segs in a way, not characters like on David Bowie's Outside, but just me talking about life and death and things, and it had red signals on it. I also did an album, Red Signals, as Marc Lowe, because I had different versions and outtakes from what ended up being the This Dark Shroud versions for some things. So that was another piece. Angels of Chaos, I actually finished at the end of 2023. And one thing I noticed last year is that the theme of angels, for some reason it wasn't intended, it just kept coming back up. One of the reasons could have been subliminally or otherwise. I had revisited my LP from way back in 2017. I basically was my first bona fide electronica LP done in Logic, and I actually talked about this on another talk. When I think about it, I did an album called Brand New Season, which had like Poppies for Sally on it, which actually ended up going on Angels of Time, which was my revision or update of Angel of Death from 2017. But some of the tracks from the original Brand New Season, Poppies for Sally, and there was another track from that, actually ended up on Angels of Time. But anyway, Angel of Death, I went back to that album, had the Dials in the Bathroom on it, A Liar. The first version from 2017 had Phantom on it. And I did bricolages, which was like tracks flowing into tracks, so it's like one continuous piece, kind of like the Leon Suites of David Bowie, if anyone knows what that is. I've talked about that in my page and with John Majori. So the Angel of Death, Bricolage 2017, and then there was another sort of rearranged, remixed, updated for me, because I was still learning Logic version, a little bit more complex in a way, from 2018. I did a bricolage of that version. It's a bit different too, different versions of Red Signals. There's no Phantom on that. It's different, and they're both interesting. So I did two 45 or so minute long bricolages. Angels of Time was the next, I guess you could say, bona fide album. And Angels of Time, as I just mentioned, was to have been a remake, in a sense, of key songs from Angel of Death. I took the three key songs, Phantom, electric version, because I had done various acoustic versions before and after, with drums in the studio and electric guitar and stuff. And then I did Only When I Tried to Find You, which is sort of the centerpiece. And it's a long piece and it's improvised. I talked about it elsewhere with my new Suling flute I had just bought. I went out in the snow and played it, and I stretched that with effects and did an improvised vocal. And then also A Liar, which was a shorter electronic track from Angel of Time, which I liked and felt that I hadn't really done anything with it, if you will. It was released on Angel of Death, but I never sort of played it live or did anything with it. So, and I actually did play it live when I talk about the live performances. 2024, my birthday live on February 26th, 2024, I did play A Liar.
It's all obvious here. He slept through the night when the alarm bell rang. He woke up in fright, a terrible cry. Someone shouting in pain. When he looked at himself, the mirror looked back in vain. And it said, "You are a liar. You are a liar, and you are a fool. You wait forever, your broken soul. You are a liar, you are a cheat. Get on your knees, slap right off your face."
In the bathroom, the version I've ever written. The background is the version I've ever written. The concept. And it's a concept.
When they came for his life, he decided he'd pay.
I'm synthesizing.
Choke out a single line. Just a solid
These are just the original. I really did this year idea though the detective various detective of Kiyokawa were played by Kiyokawa
So anyway, that's Angels of Time. Time also being another major theme in 24-25, and perhaps before that as well, but like the album that follows Angels of Time is before and after COVID. That deals with time too. How did things change, right? Before COVID, after COVID, there was a huge shift. That was originally going to be a new This Dark Shroud album, and it's pretty abstract. It's mostly instrumental. There's another version of A Liar, I think, was on that album, or maybe no, it wasn't. That was on This Dark Shroud. I get confused. I did The Unbecoming in 2024. I did one This Dark Shroud album called The Unbecoming, and that has A Liar on it. But before and after COVID has City Scraper, which is loud noises in Tokyo and kind of industrial sounds, some sampled and some not, with effectors laid on, distortion things. And a lot of talking bits, and I got really sick that year, and I had recorded myself, I'm coughing and stuff, and so all kinds of things, me taking a walk, and I called it Tokyo Night Walk, talking about the past and the present and how unhappy I was, and it was in Japanese. One or two people walked by, but it didn't interrupt it, so it wasn't ideal. It was very windy, but yeah, I just had to get out, and I'm still making these CDs. I think I showed this stuff. This is actually the Brick of Life version of the studio session, but I'm gonna do this. It's going to be part of this, and again, mixed differently. The tracks are all separated out and reordered. So, happy Golden Week. It's Golden Week in Japan. It's holidays. I couldn't deal with the crowds. I've really gotten very not intolerant, but I can't really tolerate it. I mean, I can, but I just don't want to be around it too much. Crowded spaces, and especially Tokyo. I mean, it's extreme here. So that's before and after COVID. John Majori did an interview with me about that on this page. I'll put the link. And then finally, just talking about the main albums that I did for this year, was The Tower, which I had mentioned earlier. And in part, it opens and closes with Hello Space Boy, my version of Bowie's song from the Outside album, and I did live drums for that. And one version has heavily live drums, and one version kind of takes them out. And I did other mixes that are in other places as well. But The Tower, the title track, which is track 2, I believe, was a long improvised track that actually I looked just last night. The video was released on July 15th. That's in 2 days from today at the recording of this. It's also my daughter's birthday. So that was like, I described this last night on my SNS feed as the last bona fide song I'd ever written, like to date, that I've ever written, with vocals and lyrics that could be repeatable. And I did backing track, and I performed that live, and I performed it live in studio last year several times.
here in the tower, I watch the world below disappear. It's only me up here in the tower. Oh, you know there's nothing left to fear. Nothing left to fear. Has gone dim. And I'm surrounded by ghosts of my past. Memories like fireflies flicker and fade. gonna die. I'm just alive. But the city was an illusion. This world's an illusion. So be alive.
The Tower is a major one. Like Angels of Chaos, it's a double length, and it's got a lot of material, and it's got some like new mixes of Black Nail and the Dials in the Bathroom, new mix of that. Very different mix with a flute on it, the 4-hole mini Suling. And so that kind of, if you think about it, is about time too, right? Because it's got tracks from the past and the present and new things. The Tower, very... it's a song, it's got lyrics, even though it was totally improvised on the spot. But it also is very abstract and noisy and has chaotic beats and chaotic calculator pad and different sounds and things. But it's also a song. I could, I use the backing and I can sing and perform it, although it's half improvised and half has a melody. The tower, I'm not looking it out. It had the signs were there, which I mentioned. The title of the third and final This Dark Shroud album. The signs were there. The song, which was an earlier song I did, is Marc Lowe first, and then with Joe, 2019, is This Dark Shroud. We had an arrangement is on this, and so that was sort of the last major LP of 2024. But I have a list here, and I listed others. So. The beginning of the year, We Miss You Spaceway was a David Bowie tribute, has Warzawa 2024 on it, and Loving the Alien, and things like this. There were new recordings. We Prick You was a new recording from the Outside album. Glass Symphonies, which was like live at home and live in studio things and odds and ends I put on, and a different version of the track Glass Symphonies that was also on Angels of Chaos. Two or Not Two, TWO or Not TO, was also kind of an odds and ends album. I had myself doing a reading of my story Phantom from several years back, which kind of, I don't remember if the story influenced the song or the song influenced the story. I think the story came first. And it was also influenced by Oliver Sacks and proprioception, the people without depth perception, and they feel like they're not inside their body. And I was doing a reading of that by the train tracks outdoors before I tried moving out of this apartment and moved back in. And I used that as the backing, and I put like a guitar improv on top. And so I had things like this and some other pieces, a lot of experimental pieces and alternate versions. So this is a kind of other category album. I quite like it, actually. It's very experimental. And then Beyond Silence, which I had done lots and lots of, both in studio and here at home, improvisations. And I kind of collected them. They all have a sort of kind of an ambient feel, at times a bit noisy, most of them instrumental, but there's some vocal improvisations and a lot of piano and some flute and some, this kind of thing. I think there's not much beats on that. It's mostly kind of an ambient album. And I put some of the tracks from those different sessions together and called it Beyond Silence. It's a quiet, mostly, like I say, ambient album. I would say instrumental, but there are some vocal improvisations on there. They were just improvised on the spot. So Beyond Silence. And then there were also, I think at the beginning of the year, I published these, if I'm not mistaken, the Bricolages, not only Angel of Death, which were the older ones, but I did Inner Worlds Collide, which was one bricolage was 2020-21, the COVID years, and then 2022, like the stuff I had mentioned with Kali Yuga and The Way Out Is In, and some of the acoustic things, Bodhidharma, and The Frog. I did an acoustic version, and I think that was in the bricolage. And some of the piano improvs I had done, which appeared in 2023 on the final trilogy that I had done for that year. This year, 2025, I published at the beginning of the year some things I had finished in 2023. Again, the Angels come back. So we had Angels of Chaos, Angels of Time, the third Angels album, at least with it in the title, What the Angels Saw, which I had changed the title from something else, and that was my collab I did on the computer with Sunny Yasuda, the first since 2019 or early 2020 something. When I moved to Tokyo, we had started doing, and then COVID hit, and we continued to do to keep our sanity. And this year, last year, he suddenly contacted me out of the blue and sent me stuff, like for the first time in forever. He's like, I just recorded some stuff, do whatever you want. He thought I was going to put vocals on it, like the first collabs, where it's mostly me singing, and I might have added a bit of piano or remixed his material to make it new, and my vocals, my piano, a little something. And it's really more abstract, because I'm really have been more into abstract sounds. I did put some vocals on things, and I used some of my studio sessions, such as some of the sessions I did for Angels of Time for Phantom and so on, and to use for part of the tracks. And I did some, there's some new vocal things I put on, like some spoken word and banging the guitar, tapping the neck, and making all kinds of things. What the Angels Saw, it's pretty experimental. It's mostly instrumental.
So one day, he woke up to find that things were not as they had been the night before. He had slept on the opposite side of the bed. Highly unusual for him. He was a man of habit. But what was so unusual was not merely this fact, but rather that the man found himself now lying face down on the sea. You're a servant choice, but I've got to lose. But isn't this life? An endless conundrum, endlessly posing questions to us, we mere androids in this vast universe of eternal mystery.
questions without a questioner, or a questioner without the answers. Until the man decided not to think too much about his situation.
One of these days I can find my hat again.
With Sunny, that was the first thing I released this year. Some Kind of Future 2.0 was my tribute to Bowie's Outside, the second part, following Lost in the Minotaur's Lair I didn't mention from 2023. This was another tribute to Outside. I talked about this with John Majori. I won't mention it here because I talked extensively about it elsewhere. Melting Point, This Dark Shroud, finished it at the end. Also, this one, What the Angel Saw, Some Kind of Future 2.0, and Melting Point. These three I finished actually in 2024, and just there were too many things. I was releasing all this stuff. It was a glut, it was too much, so I waited till early this year. I released Melting Point, This Dark Shroud, which was going to, I had thought of it at the time as the new sound of This Dark Shroud. It's mostly instrumental, it's kind of very soundtrackish, really dark ambient, and some of it's got some noise elements, and I really like it. I think it's a cool album. It's there's some spoken word and vocals and effects on the voice that make it bounce around, and track to track it's quite different, and there's a quiet piano improv, and I also revisited the long spoken word piece that finishes the third and final part of the This Dark Shroud trilogy from 2023, where I'm talking about, like, what is This Dark Shroud anyway. And there was also a live version I did at Yutaro in Fukuoka, and I used that track on the album. So it has one live track, or two live tracks actually. That and another live track from 2023, which was an improv. I excerpted it and sort of mixed it.
everything that flows into our feet. Into the red sun.
Now we get to really coming to the more recent albums, coming up to now and the present of 2025. Disinfo War is another double-length LP. I had been doing a number of improvisations in my room, actually, using even the... Can you see it? No, but I'm going to pull it out and show it. This, before I taped it up because it had a large crack in it, but I was using this flute and I did some improvisations with this. And the smaller flutes, of course, and keyboard, etc., and noise things. And I did improvs, and I had some spoken word and some other things I blended it with. So there are a number of these longer improvs on the Disinfo War album. I just listened to it again last night for the first time in a long time. I surprised myself, forgotten about certain things. There's a palimpsest or a palimpsest on there, a layered piece, which actually has some of the This Dark Shroud melting point in reverse and things. I was listening and I started to remember how I had created some of these things. So the long improvs and that, and also some instrumental versions of This Dark Shroud pieces like The Fleshy Air or Black Nail, which is kind of, those are Marc Lowe / This Dark Shroud, and different versions of those things. The Yellow Window I redid this year earlier with new vocals. I put I had 2 mixes of that. I put the first kind of more beat heavy mix on.
Open your eyes.
Also, the title track to Sinful War, which has a spoken word piece bouncing around with some chaotic beats and electronica. It's The Sinful War, and this was around the time, January, I released early February, Doge and Trump and everything going belly up crazy. Beyond Space and Time is just acoustic songs. I had all these acoustic things I had done, recorded some at home, recorded some live at acoustic shows, like last year, this year. I think there's a few tracks from this year were recorded live or elsewhere, and I just collected them and did Beyond Space and Time. One or two may have been outdoors. I think North Star and Want were I was outside. You can hear cars running in the background and stuff. I'm doing some songs from my Glass Gecko days in 2016, 2015, 2016, thereabouts. This is This Love from 2016. And it goes like this. It's a love ballad. The things that you said could not be explained. The way that you tried as if you were deranged. The times that you fought and the times that you hurt. The times you'd go blind, fall down in the dirt. This love that you felt, well, it tore you apart. You try to reveal the show of your heart. This love that you felt, well, it made you go blind. You tried and you tried, it distorted your mind. Things that you said, well, they could not be explained. The way that you tried as if you were deranged. You seemed deranged. Times that you'd kiss and the times you'd embrace. The times you'd fall down always end up a disgrace. Oh. This love that you felt, well, it tore you apart. You try to reveal just to show your heart. Love that you felt made you so blind. You tried and you tried it to stop. When you're together and when you're apart, when you tried hard, when you tried hard not to break your glass heart.
you said they could not be explained. The way that you tried as if you were insane. Times that you'd kiss, times that you'd hurt. You always hurt. This love that you felt, well, it tore you apart. Wanted to reveal and just show you parts. Love that you felt when it tore you in two. And the more that you tried, it made you feel blue.
I did Sekai Musekai. I was in the studio for several days in a row. Actually, 2 days in a row, I went to the studio and I recorded all these parts separately, kind of like I did for the sessions with Angels of Time for Phantom, and then I did a long session that I still haven't released officially, but it's on YouTube, which was, I'm trying to remember what I called it. Something with Matrix in it. Ghosts in the Matrix, is that it? I think not Phantoms, but I think it's Ghosts in the Matrix. Yeah, so Ghosts in the Matrix. But anyway, I did all the parts separately. I did a just session with drums. I did session with Telecaster, different sessions with different effectors on, different ways of playing it, and I did calculator, everything you can think of, and then I did the vocals and the MIDI keys at home, and then I created, also using some other things, these 2 long pieces, the back-to-back sessions, and the following week I went back to the studio, I did another session, and I created a 3rd long piece, and then I put them together on one album. It's also a double length. It's only 3 tracks, but it's quite long.
Well, there are only there were 3 words on your lips. There were only 3. There are 3 pages in my book. There were only 3 stars in the sky. There were only 3. There are 3 lights in our house. Well, there were only 3. There were 3 wishes in the book of wishes. There were only 3. Oh. There are only 3.
And then I did, as I say, this Bowie tribute, There Is No Hell. I started re-recording tracks for that. Again, I talked about that elsewhere, so I won't go into it too much here, but I did the motel, the track outside, and I changed the lyrics a bit. Again, with all the things with Doge and the Capitol building and the riots, and not riots, but the protests, all that is in there, and I did long improvs on that too. There Is No Hell has not yet been officially released, but it's in with my distributor. I don't know, they haven't sent me anything yet, so they're, I guess, a little behind with that, but it's okay. So Image Removed, the final This Dark Shroud album, basically, it was going to be called Escape the Matrix. It had a different cover. It was going to be This Dark Shroud, and then it was going to be Marc Lowe, then it was going to be This Dark Shroud, I kept changing my mind, did different covers for it. It was going to be called Escape the Matrix, I think. Or How to, yeah, it was Escape the Matrix as Marc Lowe, then it was How to Escape as This Dark Shroud with a different cover, and then eventually I ended up calling it Image Removed. I had another cover art which had my face from the Black Nail video in 2018 from Joe, and I filmed that. And I did a design and put some of the yellow window bit of my eye in yellow and all these things. And so Image Removed had tracks, brand new tracks, piano improvs, and some other noisy things. And then that brings us, or me, right up to the present. Almost Cycles is the last album I've officially has been released. It's on YouTube under my albums, and it's on Apple Music and all the rest. Cycles was originally going to be called Never Alone or something like that. There's a track on there like this, and I actually ended up rearranging that track. It's on the album. But it's talks about the cycles of history, and samsara is another thing I never released officially. Samsara, I did this spoken word piece about samsara, which I don't think I've released that unless I did and forgot about it. I have all this stuff I still haven't released officially, but not that it matters. It doesn't matter anymore, and I'll get to that at the end, and we'll talk about time again just to sum this up. But so anyway, Cycles, and the last piece has a Charlie Chaplin from The Great Dictator talking about how we need to have our humanity, and it's like this cycle has come back around again, We're here again, right, with the fascism returning not only in certain countries that I know well and grew up in, but also in other places everywhere.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life to be free and beautiful. We have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much, feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent. All will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness of men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and little children. Victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed. The bitterness of men will clear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men, with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. You have the love of humanity in your heart. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural.
no. In the name of humanity, we refuse a fascist America. No, 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 no. In the name of humanity, we refuse a fascist America. No, 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 no. In the name of humanity, we refuse a fascist America.
And we also have the weather, the climate crisis. And actually I talked about that in 2022, especially on the, I didn't mention this earlier, but the fifth and final part of that 6 symphonies, which became 9 symphonies really, transition. All these themes, and so transition was life and death mainly. And then the second piece on there, I ended up calling Global Warning. So global warming, obviously global warning, global being globalization, now globalization, things slowing down, and the economy is nosediving, and global warming, hence dictators are born, hence wars are begun. The second part is called Global Warning, and it's about the economy slowing down, which now of course the economy is also flipped around, but also Global Warning has people talking about the climate emergency, and now we're seeing it. And now, the Tokara, right, the volcano could blow any day, or actually 2 volcanoes have blown, the Sakurajima and Shimoedake, I think, and also right Mount Rainier in Washington, there's 300 some earthquakes, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all this stuff. Indonesia, Bali, earthquakes. Russia had I think a volcano blew, and we had flooding 3 nights ago, etc. So all this stuff is going on. Anyway, Cycles is the name of the album. It's very experimental, I guess you could say. There's some songs I did only 3 with this flute too before it cracked, or after it cracked, but I could still play it before I taped it. I did a new version of only 3, and that's on there. And also some covers like the Coil, Bat Wings I covered, and I put that on there in this Twilight, 9 Inch Nails with a different kind of lyric, updated lyric. I put that on there, very different arrangement. And my Sakamoto tribute, a new one, Ondata, is on there. It's kind of it starts with the piano, but then it gets kind of noisy and a little chaotic, although there's some strings and piano in the back. A hole into the sky, and it feels like we were in a play. It's been watching us as we set ourselves on fire. Do you wonder if we were to blame? When the world is filled with dread, don't you feel it? And all their lives were dripping red. Didn't you see it? As our time is running out, put aside your hopeful doubts. Will you find your inner light in our twilight? Ooh. Dust to dust, ashes in the streets remind me what it was like.
right. Don't you feel it? Their playbook was written for whites. Well, didn't you see it? And as the time is ticking fast, did you think the empire would last? Better seek some hiding place here in this twilight.
Then finally, in terms of albums, Time Slip is the newest, the latest thing I've completed as an album, if you will. And like I said, there's a bunch of unreleased things, unreleased studio sessions and live things and remix things and this and that and longer tracks that I couldn't fit other places. But Time Slip has Ayane Sato. She plays sax or tin whistle on the title track of, not the title track, but What the Angels Saw. There's a track on this album that she's on there. I mixed her in with Sonny's guitar and my backing. And Time Slip, she fairly recently, last month I guess, or 6 weeks ago, something like this, sent me, I asked her if she had time, and she sent me some of her sax with some effects, and I used for the title track Time Slip, did a bit of spoken word on it, and played my own suling on there too, the flute, and she's on 2 tracks, also one called Amido, which is a sliding door in Japan, like a traditional sliding door, and that also has my versions of Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, and also Scream Like a Baby, both from that album, 1980. I'm playing live drums and electric guitar on, and ends with a Future Legend update for 2025, again with all the political stuff going on. And so Time Slip, that things don't feel as they used to, or in a sort of time slip or a glitch. That's part of the spoken word. So it has the covers and it has that, and what else is on that? It's got a long piano improv called Bardo 9 or Bardo 09, depending how you read it. That's what I'll say about my releases. Like I mentioned, I've got other acoustic albums, like full albums that were done. I have 2 albums I did in the park. I did one last year in 24. Was that Kashida? No, the one from last year was Kogane Park, and the one from this year was Kashida. And then I have an acoustic thing I did in my room, like a full 50 minutes album, which is mixed and sounds really pretty good because I recorded it with the mic behind me, which you can't see here, with this mic here. And so that's I mean, it's on YouTube. A lot of this stuff's on YouTube, but it's not officially released through streaming, and etc. So so I'm running out of time, speaking of time, because I can't stay here and do this. I have another maybe 10 or so 15 minutes. I have to leave for an appointment. I wanted to talk about time. So time as a theme. What are the themes of my music? What are these things that I keep going? I've got the bricolages, I've got the angels, I've got time, right? Angels of time before and after COVID. A lot of my albums go back and forth. They pull in things from my past, almost every album does this, I think, at this point. I mean, the Tower has, the signs were there, and new versions of Black Nail on the Dials, and the Bathroom. Before and After COVID is, again, dealing with time and so on. Something like Angels of Chaos, I think all of that was new material, for example. But like again, though, like People, right? I used the vocal from People on that, one of the tracks. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. There are always something that deals with past, present, and into some future. But so what is time? And what, Samsara, which hasn't been released, but that's dealing with these cycles. Cycles is about time. Time Slip is about time. Beyond Space and Time, the acoustic songs, and those are older songs, which I rearranged, and some cover things that I rearranged. Some kind of future, and of course going back to 1994, 95, and Bowie's outside albums, which deal with the internet and the future of the internet. And now we're dealing, and Ramona A. Stone becomes Ramona AI in my version, and the brain patches of Bowie's Baby Grace Seg becomes a Neuralink, right? So, and Elias Mouse in my version. Melting Point is about we're coming to the end, maybe, it was actually about all the nuclear threats, and so all the heat, but also on the other side of that, the heat of the sun and the heat of global warming. So a lot of these, right? Global Warning from 2022, Life and Death, Yin and Yang, Light and Dark. I don't sort of couch it in the terms of good and evil. I'm not a Christian that way. I don't think about it as the battle between good and evil, but light and dark, certainly, right? That you could call it good and evil. I mean, if you like, I just don't tend to use those terms or metaphors for it. It's more like light and dark, and they both coexist. And then, of course, at the core, there's, in Buddhist terms, there's emptiness, there's shunyata, there's, it's not the void, but it's, again, these are, you could call it this or that, but then we get into issues of linguistics or issues of language. The bricolages are also time capsules encapsulating moments in time, like Inner Worlds Collide encapsulates 2020 through 21 in the first bricolage, and 2022 in the second. Music for Quinquagenarians, and quinquagenarian is, right, the age. If you look this up, right, we're talking about my age. Half a century, 50 years old, right, in 2023. 2023, the music I did, that's a time capsule of that. Angel of Death is encapsulating the 2017-18 versions of that album. And I actually had earlier bricolages I published, I think in 2023 at the end of the year or something like that. That's when I think I started doing, and then I did these, which was A Glass Sun, which encapsulated music from 2017 through I think 19, and the Glass Gecko, my band, post-band days kind of things, and some other things that I had all these tracks and I didn't know what to do with them, and so I made bricolages, and I made 3 bricolages. They're all dealing with time, with my past, with my present, and looking forward to what the hell is coming. And this talk itself is about time, because I have to go off to my appointment. I have, right, time, but we construct time, and time is a construction. It's a human construction in order to order our world. And scientists, and quantum physics in particular, has always sort of questioned that time is real, the way that we experience it, right? The multiverse, and there are different, kind of things. And I don't want to get too metaphysical, and it's quantum physics, and I'm not an expert in quantum physics either. There's the Buddhist concepts and the Hindu concepts of time as well, and that we're in yugas, or time periods, and or cycles, like the album, or samsara is also a cycle. It's a loop. It's a snake biting its tail. We're in the year of the snake. And so, excuse me, this is definitely a theme in my music and in my work, and I think really in a way, one day after I'm gone, if humans are around, or maybe it's going to be AI who will do this and not humans, or aliens, or I have no idea, because right now everything is so weird, And I don't know how much of it is real or not real, or maybe we are not real, or maybe this whole thing is a dream of Vishnu. But anyway, I think my catalog of music needs to be sort of looked at as a whole, in a way, like even going back as far as my band stuff, although certainly more so from the solo work onward, although really the band stuff's part of my history and my past, without which the 022623 album couldn't exist. That has newer material on it. It has some ambient things on it. Thousand Lights I didn't mention, which I had published at the beginning of 2003, just finished in 2002. That's another one that kind of goes new material, older things kind of combined, remixed, redone. I think the whole catalog is dealing with yin, yang, light, dark. So contrast and Buddhist themes, chaos. That song Chaos keeps coming up again and again too, in different versions, in different forms. Life and death. So, but that's all the same. It's all really the same thing, really. Time, life and death, yin and yang, light and dark, and the contrast, right, between the two and where they, and so maybe Time Slip is not a bad place to end the catalog if fate has it this way. And I finished the Bowie Outside triptych as well. I don't know. These volcanoes are going to blow, or what's going to happen. But I wanted to do this talk, and I have just a little bit of time to say a few things about the live bits, although I might do like a separate talk on this. I'm not yet sure if I have time. I just laid this out, and I'm just going to do a very quick talk about 2024. I had performed 18 live shows, 17 in Tokyo, and I did a one-man larger performance in Fukuoka with Joe on bass, and I did 2 stages, 2 sets, solo and with Joe, and I did this one sort of 50-minute long improv with backing tracks and video. And with Joe, we did songs and improvs, and anyway, 18 shows total last year. Now this year, so far, I've only done 4, and my latest one I just posted yesterday, and it was the night before on the 11th of July. I've only done 4, so look how I've slowed down. You talk about time, and right, 18 last year, 4 this year, through mid-July, and nothing booked right now. And I did 1 guest performance for Little Wing. I just happened to drop in and perform with a jazz band. They asked me to sing. But basically only 4 live shows. I did January 19th at Shiel, SIEL. It was a 2-man. So I played for like 40 or 45 minutes as This Dark Shroud with my backing. I did electronica songs with video. Mostly songs with improvisational aspects, and the other one I did like that was April 3rd at Chikuya, which had been the last show until 2 nights ago I had done. That also was a similar style with video backing, This Dark Shroud, songs, and a bit of improv. February 7th and then July 11th, 2 nights ago, those were similar style shows. No backing, no video. I use a tiny bit of backing at Nakano Moonstep. I think I did Disinfo or backing for something. I did an improv. But basically no backing. Using my flutes. At Nakano Moonstep, I actually used this guy, and that was the night I cracked it, actually, because when I was leaving the apartment, it hit the entrance to the door. It was in my guitar case. That's when it cracked. But I was able to play it that night. So Nakano Moonstep on February 7th, and then July 11th, those were 2, I had 30 minutes only for both of those shows. These were shorter shows, and I just did an improv, flutes, guitar. It was acoustic at Nakano. It was electric the other night. Noise, synth, and Kaus pad, and Kausilator pad, Castle 2.0 noise synth, with effectors and some vocals and looping and things like this. And that's it. Only 4 shows, and then, as I say, I sung I was able to sing Little Wing with a jazz band with, at a company, which talk about time and talk about cycles. That was the first live house, as they're called in Japan, that I performed at ever in Tokyo. My first live show in 2019, after I first got here with my then ex-girlfriend, and she was at the show even, was there. And I did, just electronic music backing in my songs. I did my tribute to We Miss You, Space Boy for David Bowie. I opened that show, and I still remember. And I did Black Nail and the Dials in the Bathroom and that kind of stuff. And I had kind of really long hair, and I was a little bit heavier than I am now, and it was before COVID, right? So I went there, and the place was, they were changing management, and I just happened to stop in because I looked on my phone, I was there, and I go, oh, jazz, and it's the guy who actually had booked me for this show we did together in 2019. And we had collaborated, and I got there, and he goes, hey, long time no see. Everyone was pretty friendly, and they said, hey, can you sing Little Wing? I said, sure. They said, okay. And I was I paid and had a drink. I'm not drinking now, but I had a highball, whiskey with soda in it, soda water, and just was a paying guest. I had one drink or something, and they're like, you want to sing? So I got up on the stage, I plopped my phone down, and I did it. And we did Little Wing, and then they told me, oh yeah, the management's changing. And after that, I actually contacted Chikuya, which is also the last place I had performed in 2020, March 15th, 3/15. I remember, and that show was recorded and filmed by the guy who filmed the Little Wing. He came and filmed it and put it on his page, actually, that live show. It's still on his page, March 15th, 2020, Marc Lowe. So that was an interesting thing, too, because that was the last place I had played before COVID. And I think the first place I played after I broke up with my ex. And then that was also the last time I had played there in 2020 during COVID. And so I played Chikuya, and I did This Dark Shroud. And I was the last person on that night. And I did with video and I had done with video too. Then the time it was I had just started using video at the beginning of COVID, March 15th, and had planned for my next show that was canceled because of COVID. So all these cycles coming around again, very interesting, right? So that I thought that might be my last show, but then the other week I suddenly got an invite. You want to play TKA4 or TK4A? I think it's TK4A or TKA4. So I went to Koenji, and it was the night after the flooding in Shibuya and Meguro Ward and so on. And the sky was ominous, but everything was fine, and I did, and I put that video up the other night. So all these cycles, time, and here we are. So, last year I had 18 shows, including the Fukuoka show, and this year I've had only 4 and nothing booked right now. I'd like to do, hopefully, who knows what's going to be, but I'd like to do one more acoustic show at least, and if possible I thought I'd like to do a piano only, piano vocal show. I might use a little bit of backing, something ambient maybe, or for certain things, but basically just playing the piano and playing songs, my songs, cover songs that I've arranged, maybe Non-Entity, maybe I recently covered The Ocean by IMX. For piano and voice, something like this. And my daughter's birthday is coming up. The anniversary of the Tower release, the 15th, is coming up. The last sort of bona fide song I've written. So maybe I'll try and write a new song. Maybe I'll try and do a new version of White Pearl for my daughter for her birthday on the piano. I want to play the piano, so maybe later today I'm going to play the piano at home, and we'll see. I'm going to end the talk here. I have to leave. I have an appointment I have to go to, actually. So I'm going to stop it there. And time is waiting in the wings. He speaks of senseless things. His trick is you and me, boy. 1973, Aladdin, same time. David Bowie. And on that note,